crazy because Tony Hinchcliffe, I've actually been gaining some respect for him recently, listening to like a couple interviews, and like he had an argument with Rick Glassman years ago on Rick Glassman's podcast, which I can send you. You may have heard something about it, but it's actually a really interesting podcast because they're talking about comedy all the time, and Tony is basically talking about people who used to come to the Comedy Store who aren't doing comedy anymore, but they're like writing, right? Like writing on shows like Young Sheldon or other network movies or whatever. And he's basically shitting on that, saying that they're not true to the craft, and that was why he always gave them such a hard time in the past, and basically drawing this contrast between what he does and that, saying that like he has full control over everything he does, he makes all the decisions, it's all like purely focused on his creative instincts and craft, and that like he keeps it true to what comedy is. And despite the fact that he's like very egotistical about it, to a point where it's too much, I also have a lot of respect for that. Like there is something that I am a little persuaded by about that attitude of like fully dedicating yourself to your own project and like making it as big as it can be. And then for him to do all of that shit about independence and making his own decisions just to fucking take whatever the check was to perform at a fucking Trump rally, like what the fuck is up with that? In Pennsylvania. Sorry, it wasn't in Pennsylvania, it was in New York, which is even weirder because he's not from there. But yeah, man, that's fucking weird. Like, what's the point of all of this independence? That just makes it more like a straight up endorsement. You know what I mean? Like, he can't even make the argument that he's just taking the check, because it's like you've built your whole life around doing what you want to do, and now you're showing us that that's what you want to do. That's fucking pathetic.
Yeah, that's my thing with Tony Hinchcliffe too, is every time I start to respect him, he does something that makes me fucking, lose respect for him. This is the hugest thing, obviously. Like you said, taking the check after building up this whole life of independence and all this other shit, to just take the check to do that. Maybe he does, actually like Trump. Like, a lot of the shit he would do, like, I would respect his independence and what he was doing with Kill Tony and this and that, and thinks a lot of his stuff was funny. But then I'd watch some of his shit, and it was just pathetic, really bad. There is a lot of, you can make jokes about anything, and you can be edgy and offensive or shocking, or racial, or make racial jokes, and have it still be funny. Or even if it's not necessarily funny to me, come from a place where I can see that you're not just a piece of shit. But a lot of his shit in the moment is just like cheap racist jokes that just feel just shitty and racist, not like anything like that. And I don't know, the way he's just promoted so many, but we've talked before about the Austin comedy scene. That's mostly Rogan's thing, but he's a huge part of that. And the way he's promoted so many people to this level of like being able to do like at least theater shows, if not arena shows, that are comics that are nowhere near ready for that, because they come on and do 5 minutes, or they do 1 minute on his extremely successful show, but then they become regulars, and they're really funny in those moments, but they're not ready to do an hour. They don't have the chops, they haven't put in the time to like build up being able to do that. And you get comics that shit on that because they're from the old school and they put in so much work to get where they are, and they're like, well, when I was coming up you had to do it this way or that way, and some of that's bullshit, because it's like, yeah, that sucks that it's easier for people now because of the internet, but it is, so they can do that. But there is a limit to that too. Some stuff, you got to put in time to be able to do an hour that's actually entertaining and keeps your attention for an hour and works. And then you get these people that try and do that stuff, like what's that dude's name, David Lucas or whatever. Now he didn't obviously try, he made a little special in heavy quotations that he made all on his own and stuff. That's not getting a special. Most of the Kill Tony guys aren't getting hour-long specials, but they are getting way too much time and attention for what they can do right now. And a lot of that's from him and his ego and his sucking of Joe Rogan's dick So, I've always been of two minds about Tony. Here's something Elon's doing that drives me nuts. And I don't know all the details on it, so I may be a little wrong. But what I heard was that some of the campaign contributions and stuff he's doing with petitions and urging people to vote and heavily, swinging right and stuff like that is legally considered election interference. But because of how the law works and charging him with the crimes and stuff like that, it'll take so long that he won't have to face any consequences for these actions till after the election. And of course, if Trump wins, he will get Elon off. In more ways than one, obviously. But and clearly Elon wants to position himself in, Trump's, circle and have sway with him, and is, buying that position from him as, you would do in Elon's position. But, so that's insane, one, that there is that loophole that basically, you can interfere with the election to a level that is blatant and illegal publicly, as long as you do it well enough that it works and your candidate wins, because then you'll be off. Now, there's that, and then this petition thing I know a little bit more about, and he was offering like $1 million a day, winners for people signing the petition, but he was shut down by the government because it was illegal what he was doing because of election interference or whatever. And to me, that's another case of him having his cake and eating it too. The connection I made, I heard about the other one and how he's taking advantage of that loophole or whatever. This one, the connection I'm drawing here with this is he was doing it. He gave $1 million away once or twice, something I think, and then he got shut down. And now he's going to be able to come out and say, well, I was trying to do this. I was trying to give away this money, $1 million a day until the election. But I was shut down by big government, Joe Biden's administration stepping in, taking away your money. So he's able to interfere in a legal way that when the government rightly stops him from doing it, he can then blame the government to that base of people and say, this is exactly why we have to vote for Trump. Because a big government and this and that. It's just ridiculous how much power this guy has and the stuff he can get away with. It's making me literally sick to my stomach. And yeah, again with the Tony Hinchcliffe and the fucking Trump rally thing, it was one thing when Joe Rogan would bring people like Tucker Carlson and Jordan Peterson by Kill Tony and stuff, because you kind of got to do what Joe Rogan says if you're in that Austin comedy scene. I believe at that point Kill Tony was running out of the mothership or whatever, so of course you're gonna let him on stage with him if he wants to, and of course he's gonna want to do that stuff because his famous bullshit thing is being supposedly level-headed and down the middle of the road and letting everybody speak their mind and whatever bullshit, fucking coward shit he's on that week to, whatever. But, so I got that a little bit more, but it was kind of telling that it was always people like Tucker Carlson and those kind of dipshits, and right-wing people when it wasn't a comedian or something like that. But this culmination of him speaking at a Trump rally, I don't know. That whole scene is way too right-wing for me. I get the freedom of speech, say anything you want thing going along with comedians, but comedians usually, that kind of thing goes along with progressiveness and liberalism. Usually it's been flipped really oddly in the last decade or so because of wokeness and liberals and stuff being usually very compassionate and accepting and not wanting to punch down. That has somehow been, we're being censored, when it's really no, we just don't want to deal with assholes and bigots. So I don't know, it's all blurry now, but that scene is way too right-wing and gross, and I'm just not a big fan of the whole Kill Tony crowd anyway. So them becoming more and more folded into the Joe Rogan sphere and all that is not terribly surprising for me.
Yeah, honestly, I did forget about like how Tucker Carlson and Jordan Peterson had been on Kill Tony. So I mean, I guess the right wing like thing was pretty much already obviously there. I do think that they literally up until the point of performing at a Trump rally, it feels like that they have the plausible deniability in terms of whether they're actually right-wing or just, yeah, like you said, oh, these are interesting online personalities, we're just going to have them on. You know, it feels like they've been able to hide under that cover, even though obviously people detect the racism and stuff that comes from them. But I don't know. It just seems like it is kind of a mask-off moment. And if what you said is true about how Joe Rogan wanted to bring Jordan Peterson and Tucker Carlson on, and that's why guys like that got on, that's even more telling, because that to me just makes Joe Rogan's like obvious preference for right-wing politics again just that much more explicit, because you know they hide under the cover of that not being the case, but it seems like it's clearer now than it ever was. And I don't really know exactly what it is. I guess it's because a guy like Bernie isn't in the atmosphere now, so people can't say, oh, I support Bernie because he, you know, has like populist economic policy and stuff like that. With the absence of a politician like that, people who are not left-wing but still want some of those things. There's a lot of people who I think are not left-wing minded people who want things like healthcare. So when somebody like Bernie is talking about that, then there's a bigger cohort behind it. But then now that there's nobody like that, even people who were genuinely left-wing, I think have like drifted to the right. I think that's the case with like Ian Fidance and Jordan Jensen and sort of that whole crew. I guess there's really not that many of them. It's really just those two because I watch them, and they're pretty consistent with the right-wing lean on their politics at this point. But anytime it really gets down to it, it's like they both have talked about how they were Bernie supporters, you know what I mean? But I think without a focus on that type of economic policy, which makes sense to most people start to drift in these like reactionary directions. But with somebody like Tony Hinchcliffe, it's just, I don't know, incredibly explicit. I'm surprised. I'm honestly surprised to see him perform at a Trump rally, because even despite knowing like the toxicity that came out of that community, I still kind of took him as more of a middle of the road guy. But I guess that was completely not true.
Yeah, and with that Elon Grift thing, it's not only like the people he's already said he'd give it to, just that he was going to do it, supposedly every day until the election, or every week until the election, whatever it was. He can say like, look, I tried. I was out here. I wanted to give away $1 million every week or every day or whatever it was, you know, and big government had to step in and stop it. This is why we need to elect Trump. Like, it's that kind of shit. Like, it's just like the thought of it, and now he can say that or whatever. I don't know. It's just all bullshit with them. And with Joe Rogan and bringing those people on Kill Tony, that's definitely how it went down with him wanting to bring them on. I know for sure with Tucker, because Tucker talked about it in an interview I saw, and other people have talked about, oh, I wonder if Joe's going to do X with Y, talking about like taking him to Kill Tony after this, because that's what he does. Like, it's like the Austin tour with some of those people, because like when it lines up that he's recording his podcast on the day with Kill Tony, he'll sit there and with whatever celebrity it is or whatever, you know, after they're done recording, if they're not like, you know, like, oh, I gotta go, I have real things to do in my life. If they're one of those, you know, like Peterson losers that wants to hang out and suck the Joe Rogan teat, he'll then be like, oh, all right, and you'll take him out to dinner and then take him to Kill Tony like mid-show, and they'll be backstage checking it out. And if it's someone like Tucker or Peterson he wants to put on stage, he'll text Tony and be like, hey, I'm gonna bring Tucker out. And then Tony like, okay, and then introduces them as the surprise guest or whatever. Like, it's happened at least with Tucker and Peterson, probably other people. So, at least that's how Tucker described it going down. I've heard other comedians reference that as being like the Rogan tour. It's gross.
Man, people are really jumping down Tony's throat for that appearance. I think he underestimated how much that set would be used for clips and clickbait and shit. But he's like the face of the MAGA movement at this point, because a lot of people didn't know who he was. I think he's about to find out that like the average person doesn't know or care about him or how cool he thinks his show is. And he just, for a lot of people, he just represents MAGA now. So hope that's what he wants. It looks like Jordan Jensen is fully on the path to becoming a right-wing grifter. She had the lady from The Sopranos on her podcast this week, apparently. And she's like, that lady's done like the Fox News tour and stuff like that. I haven't heard that much about her, but she's one of these people that like, I'm not left or right, but I'm going to exclusively criticize the left because they're the ones that are powerful and they own all of the media and all of the entertainment, that sort of thing. So I don't know what kind of conversation they had. I'm honestly less interested in listening to that podcast than I've ever been. But yeah, that makes it seem pretty clear that like as soon as she gets the opportunity to interview just like right-wing hacks, that's exactly what she's gonna do.
Yeah, I keep seeing stuff ranging from people being like, people just need to learn how to take it up. No one can handle a joke these days. All the way up to, just people having no idea who the hell he is, and like, who the hell is this racist guy they put on at the Trump rally? But I feel like you could say that at any Trump rally, to be fair. Yeah, I don't think he expected the backlash he's getting. Maybe he did. You got to expect a little bit, right? But it's just still insane to me that he even did it, like, or that they would put him on. Like, I get it that roast jokes are supposed to be shocking and offensive, and but I mean, it's just like the wrong setting for that. And at a normal roast, you're roasting people you love and care about, and you're giving them shit about like real stuff or stuff that's exaggerated, they always get shit for, or whatever, cliche things that you'd be mocking somebody for. But like, usually at the end you say something nice about them, or at the very least, it's an event everyone's at to specifically make fun of you, and that's what's gonna happen, all this stuff. At a Trump rally, just like saying roast style jokes to a bunch of random people or about a bunch of, I don't know what they were thinking. It just seems completely tone deaf. Doesn't seem to be for anyone, and only serves to, I guess, make them look more racist. I guess it serves to Tony's hardcore fan base, the Kill Tony people, just to make sure they already know to vote for Trump. But, or that they know to vote for Trump. I'm sure they already were going to, a lot of them. So I don't know, but I think it's kind of funny to watch him getting shredded a little bit. I think it's just more amazing than anything else that they would think to put him on, Sasha seems really broken up about the Tony Hinchcliffe thing. He's like, I really like that guy. I can't believe he's campaigning at a Trump rally. What the hell? Like, dude, well, kind of seems like him, really, these days, unfortunately. I mean, this part, going as far as a Trump rally, is a little shocking. But, I mean, it's not that far off from where he was at, so I'm not terribly surprised.
Don't tell Sasha about Jordan Jensen, then. He's going to be even more fucked up about that, because that's his pretend girlfriend. But yeah, with the Tony Hinchcliffe thing, I was just kind of surprised at how quickly it hit the timeline. I didn't even really know anything about him going to the rally. I hadn't heard about it. And then all of a sudden, I saw like Kamala's official account posting clips of it, which, my understanding is that there is more to the set, and that he did make fun of the Trump crowd a little bit, or maybe Trump himself, I don't know. But it seems like the only acceptable way to do that, and I feel like every comedian, every like real fucking speak truth to power comedian, which is kind of what Tony Hinchcliffe like positions himself as, like, would know that the only real acceptable way to do that is to go there and just trash Trump and his fans the entire time. If you're not going to do that, then it's just not worth it, and it is essentially the same as a political endorsement. And I would expect no less from somebody going to a Kamala event as well, even though it's like, maybe I would agree with that decision a little bit more. It's like I probably wouldn't watch a comedy set at a Kamala Harris rally because it's kind of corny. But if somebody went just to shit on her the whole time, then what it would be a pretty clear indication that they don't support Kamala Harris and that they were just taking the money. But it just seems like if that's your angle and you're trying to say fuck these politicians and fuck politics and stuff, then that's what you do. That's what an irreverent comedian does. And it feels like what Tony did is just like more just fealty to the Trump movement and to Trump himself. They're all sucking up to Trump at this point. It's fucking crazy. I guess they are hoping that he wins and they want to have a good relationship with him if he wins. But yeah, I don't know. It's just interesting anytime somebody takes like, you know, something shocky or edgy from the sort of like corner that they do it in into a new, more mainstream arena. And like for Tony, he probably thought that doing this Trump rally was like pretty on brand for him. It wouldn't be that questionable. A lot of the Trump people might know him already, especially because it's at Madison Square Garden in New York. And so he was probably like, yeah, this wouldn't be that big of a deal. It'll probably get some headlines, but like, it's not that shocking for me to do this. But he went so hard with the racism that seems to like really be resonating to the point where it might actually do some damage to Trump's, to the, you know, whatever the percentage of like Latinos, Puerto Ricans, you know, Haitians, etc., that actually do support Trump. You know, it makes it harder for them to not think that he's racist. Like, I know people out here in California that I do security with who are not only immigrants, but illegal immigrants who in the last few months have told me things like, oh yeah, you know, I really think Trump's changed. I think he used to be racist, but he's not racist anymore. And, you know, I was making the point that it's like he's just learned how to be a more savvy politician and like what he shouldn't say and should say, especially because he knows that like with black people, with Latinos, Mexicans, etc., like he knows that there's a certain amount of those people that do support him and he wants more of them. So it's like he has to chill on some of the shit that he came out saying. And it seemed like that was working. And I'm sure it will still continue to work because at this point, if someone has decided that they excuse everything that's wrong with Trump because they like him, then that's just what they're gonna do and who they are. But it does make it a little harder to deny that he's racist when you have this type of stuff coming out of his campaign. And it sucks a little bit that it's turned into this thing where it's like speaker at a Trump rally and it's just like Tony Hinchcliffe saying jokes. Like, yeah, maybe there is some creative license there, but it's also like, it's his own fucking fault. That's why you don't go to a Trump rally and tell jokes that essentially fit directly into the programming of a Trump rally, because now all of a sudden you are MAGA supporter number one. And yeah, I think that he probably has done more to solidify his brand as that in that one moment than he realized he was doing. So we'll see if he pivots, or I doubt he'll apologize. I wouldn't want him to apologize, but you know, he's probably just going to keep going in that direction. What I think happens with a lot of these people is that they start going in that direction, and then the reaction from the like mainstream middle and the left is so vitriolic that they feel like they rather than just being like, okay, maybe I said some shit I shouldn't say, they go further to the right and become more, that's where they start to feel more comfortable. I think that's what's happening with Jordan Jensen, and it appears to be happening with Tony at a high level. I would bet that that's what's going to happen from here, is that he's going to sort of settle in to these right-wing communities, and they're going to embrace him. They're going to see that he is getting all this backlash from the left, and they're going to say, oh, we support your free speech, we support your jokes, we understand what you were doing, you made fun of us too, come over here, hang out with us.